You know, sometimes these things just don't work the way you want them to work. So hi, welcome back to Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2. We're here with the Fantastic Four in a mix-up of the Ultimate Fantastic Four costumes and the normal Fantastic Four costumes. But you know, we get Reed Richards with glasses, so that's what we're into here. And this is the Hydra base. Don't know if we've shown this off before. I might have cut around it. But this is where we hang out when we side with Captain America. Of course. And we're talking to Prodigy here. Not familiar with Prodigy very much, but you can see we're continuing to work on our defensive statistic boost here. But the reason that I've moved over from doing more Gundam videos to this again just briefly is because the Marvel's Avengers game came out on the 4th of September, and I have been kind of surprised about its general reception. And that is, the general reception has bbe mixed, and I'm sure that for some people that's not surprising. Remember, this is a game that was supposed to be out last year and had to go back and work out some kinks. You know, some of the Avengers, you don't quite feel like they're supposed to feel, but that's because they can't look like the characters that played them in the movies, because we couldn't spend the money to do that. Yeah, for instance, Captain America, who
I don't think so.
We've got, you know, you can see right here. Captain America kind of looks like J.J. Watt, the defensive end for the Houston Texans. I don't mean that in the sense of dimensions, because J.J. Watt is a bigger human being than any version of Captain America that's ever been put to paper or screen. I mean, in the face. If you've ever seen J.J. Watt, you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. And Tony Stark looks kind of Tony Starkish, but you could definitely tell that they were trying not to make him, or, you know, they were walking a fine line between having him be recognizably sort of Tony Stark and not be Robert Downey Jr. He kind of looks like a mixture of Tony Stark from any media you've ever seen. Mickey Mouse. He actually has I swear he's got some Mickey Mouse in that face. And that's fine. But for the most part, I've been sort of pleased with the way that the Marvel's Avengers game has come out, and part of that has been mostly just I've watched a playthrough on, I think it's the Rad Brad's channel, and the game basically achieves what I would kind of want that game to achieve. You go into it, you can be an Avenger, you can fight with other Avenger characters, and the story seems pretty neat. They do a fairly good job, with they do a pretty good job, particularly introducing Kamala Khan as Miss Marvel.
Until I heard about Cap and
it's kind of tricky.
Then I realized I had to join the cause.
about, in the sense that it's a game that was clearly made before the Fox merger with Marvel Studios. Here we go. This is the question point. Yeah, there you. Sorry. If you're familiar, I know I'm breaking the point here. If you're familiar with the '80s Spider-Man cartoon, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, where Spider-Man went to college with Angelica Jones or Firestar, who we're talking to right now, and Iceman. They, anyways, that was the sort of interesting cast that they put together for that cartoon show, and it's referenced here. I think it's also referenced if you have a conversation with her with Spider-Man. So here's the next mission that's about to be set up, and then we'll try to jump back into the Marvel's Avengers discussion. But we're introducing the negative zone prison, Prison 42. Now we're introducing the Thunderbolts, or at least this game's version of the Thunderbolts. So they're using nanites to control villains in order to utilize their superpowers to give them an advantage in the war. And in this particular mission, they're transferring prisoners, and we need to stop that prisoner transfer from happening, liberate our friends, kind of bring them back to the good side. So, so the first thing that we need to do is allow our aircraft to get in the area. So we're going to have to take out their anti-aircraft guns. Now, fortunately for us, we're going to be starting right here. And for this mission, we're going to be the Fantastic Four. And right now, I'm being the Human Torch. So you saw that basically I was just sitting back and lighting things up with fireballs. There's also a short-range fire blast attack. The Human Torch, a lot of these characters, sometimes you get the sense that they might be just a little bit OP. And the Human Torch is one of those. Although, again, he doesn't have a lot of health. So, kind of gotta make sure you don't get hit too much. You can see that we've already taken a ton of damage, and we really haven't been involved much in the main part of the fight. We haven't been doing a lot of melee up, and now we're down. Alright, so now it's going to be up for the thing. When you're using the thing in this game, one of the annoying things about it, and I'm sure I've mentioned this, is that to unlock his hidden costume, you have to do the It's Clobberin' Time power buff like a huge number of times. I forget how many exactly, but it just gets real kind of annoying to have to do that over and over again. But here you can see sort of what Ben Grimm can do for you. It looks like there's, I think this is a gamma regulator. So we're getting closer to being able to unlock the Hulk. And we keep moving on rooftops. So, one of the interesting things here we talked about using the nanites to control the supervillains and then add their power to the pro registration ranks.
First set of guns down. Push forward and hit the rest.
Is not dissimilar from something that they do in Marvel's Avengers, where basically they're using Inhumans to power robot adaptoids in order to create an adaptoid army. Now, what that army is going to be used for is depends on which villain you're talking about, because the villainous organization AIM just lost the Invisible Woman. Oh boy. This is on Legendary, so it's now I'm running around looking for help. The villainous organization AIM, as you'll find, really has two different bosses, and they have two different agendas. In a way, it's kind of like Spider-Verse. I mean, if you saw the movie Into the Spider-Verse, where Kingpin was clearly the guy in charge, but for a brief moment, it looked like they were going to give Dr. Octavius from Miles's dimension some motivation of her own, and then they just didn't do anything with it. Yep, there we go. There's the clobbering time power-up. And then they just didn't do anything with it. In Marvel's Avengers, you're not going to have that problem. Both of the main bad guys, and I'm not going to spoil who they are or what they do, although by mentioning AIM, I'm kind of limiting your options as to what could happen. And I'm sure that for those of you who trip over this video somehow months from now are going to be like, okay, well, you didn't spare me from anything. Let's just say that the villain's motivations and the stuff that's going on, and now Reed Richards is the last man left standing. But they're using Inhumans, and again, the reason we're using Inhumans is because you can't really use mutants, or Marvel wasn't going to use mutants at a time when they didn't control the movie rights and the money, and those things to the X-Men, because you can clearly find some spots in the Marvel Avengers story where we're clearly talking about mutants, and we're just substituting the Inhumans for them. Marvel's Avengers doesn't do a very good job of... I mean, there's some world building here. Like, you know who the main Avengers are. You don't necessarily... And by the way, this is me resetting some of my progress because we all died. But now we're going to kill a lot of people with Human Torch and a fusion attack, and somehow the big guy survived all that. But Inhumans are kind of lightly touched on. It's not, as far as you know from this game, if you walked into this game and that was your only exposure to Inhumans and Terrigen Mists and those sorts of things, you might come under the impression that Inhumans were invented in this game. And we're dead again. We're invented in Marvel's Avengers, and so you kind of the origin of, were there Inhumans before this? Do the Inhumans, such as they exist in the comics, like with the Royal Family and Lockjaw, do they exist in the video game universe? And the answer is you don't know, but there's a good chance they don't. But for the most part, it doesn't really come up. They clearly handle some things with an eye on expansion, like characters they're going to add to the game later, or ideas they might use for a sequel. Like one thing that... So, Scott Lang is Ant-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And he is one of the people who has had the mantle Ant-Man in the comics. And so, but because he's in the movies, and because he's played by Paul Rudd, people kind of know Scott Lang to be Ant-Man, but they're aware that he was not the first one because Michael Douglas, Hank Pym, is hanging around. And the way the Marvel Cinematic Universe gets over that is that they make Pym part of an early generation. He's the first Ant-Man, but he's also not really part of the current superhero generation. But Hank Pym in the comics has always been an Avenger. In fact, one of the founders of the Avengers. And, relatively similar in age to everybody who at least started the team. So Hank and Tony, probably, similar in age. Well, in Marvel's Avengers, one of the things that threw me for a loop is you're going to meet Hank Pym. And he ain't old Michael Douglas. In fact, of all the characters who were in the game, like, the one who I could feasibly cosplay as, and it would be somewhat convincing, is Hank Pym. But when you meet Hank Pym and you meet a age-appropriate, not old guy Hank Pym, he tells you that AIM has messed with his. Basically, he got captured by AIM, and he escaped, and he's running a Inhuman resistance movement, which seems a little different for him, but apparently AIM managed to screw around with his body enough that he no longer reacts to his own Pym particles, so he can't turn into Ant-Man. Now that does a couple things for the purposes of the story. One, it explains why we never see Ant-Man or Giant Man try to solve any of the problems, at least as Hank Pym. Two, part of Hank Pym's power set is going to, or his traditional power set, is going to be, is going to overlap with Kamala Khan's power set. So the things he can no longer do, you still have characters who can kind of do them, except for the shrinking thing. So Kamala Khan, who for the most part is a female version of Reed Richards as far as powers go, also has the ability to get big, or to make herself big, or at least a little bit bigger. And so you're not really missing the Giant Man aspect of Hank Pym's powers. I also think that if they get around to adding, I also think that this gives them the freedom to go and add Scott Lang to the game later if they can figure out sort of how to make his powers work. One of the things that I generally like, or one of the things that you can sort of see working in the way the game plays, is you can sort of see what characters are going to be easier to adapt, because they're either going to be palette swaps for current characters, or they're going to have combat styles that are sort of similar to what current characters do. So, Scott Lang as Ant-Man, I don't know how they would implement the shrinking stuff, but as far as having him grow and get bigger, they already can do that with Kamala Khan, so that's a thing they could do. And again, I think it's sort of set up by the fact that that Hank Pym, even though he's pretty and young, can't be Ant-Man. And now they may not do anything with Ant-Man in this particular game. I mean, there may never be a DLC that brings Ant-Man into Marvel's Avengers. I mean, we've had 2 Marvel Ultimate Alliance games, 3 now, and we're just now getting Ant-Man. God, I have to go back and look at the Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 roster. I wanted to say that they're potentially there, but I don't. I'm pretty. Yeah, the Wasp is there for sure. So I think Ant-Man's probably there too. But you know, Ant-Man's not something that they certainly didn't do it for this game you're watching right here. As we are now fighting Songbird, the de facto leader of the Thunderbolts in the storyline, former villain turned hero. She's got some neat powers, but like the Human Torch, you know, she doesn't have a lot of health.
See, I'm hurting.
I mean, this is her boss fight, so that's not exactly the best description I can give you right off the top of my head. Alright, now we're going to throw Reed Richards. She's kind of pinned here, so if we can just keep her in this corner, prevent her from using her energy powers. And we should have her here. And Sue's a little weak, but I've got Ben Grimm. Sue is down. We can revive Sue. We do have a health thingy. Now Ben is down. Wow, she must have really hit me. Oh wow, are we gonna get all this far down on Songbird and then all die? Oh no, I revived the thing. Alright. So we defeated Songbird, and that gives us access to this little bridge, which will allow us to continue the level.
Got a thing for the thing.
So, just to sum up my thoughts on Marvel's Avengers, and I realize that it's not the game that's in front of you right now. It looks to me like it does what it's supposed to do, which is allow you to, again, play as an Avenger, play on a team with the other Avengers around you. And, you know, as far as, and there are opportunities to get gear and costumes and those kinds of things. Not thrilled by some of the design choices on some of the costumes.
Use that crane to reach the high line. Once it's clear, ambush will be a go.
But there are enough options that you'll find something that works for you.